Now we're on. Okay, I'm also recording this over here.
Oh, I better shush.
Yeah, well, just watch your language. You might be on the internet. We wouldn't want you to say anything inappropriate on the internet. Okay, okay. Who is listening?
Me.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, Lori, can you see it all? Come over here.
I can see just like
I can't imagine how. Okay, so
right through the air.
if you could divide this up into thirds across this way, you'd want your center of interest on one of the lines, or close to it. So I've got this butterfly in the upper half, kind of on a line, close to it. The thing is that when you've got something where this needs to be the focal point, because the position of it, you want things that will make that be the focal point. And we have several devices that we are using here. First of all, we have this dramatic color change right there. We have where we mask the little stamens, and that is also going to give us some really detail that really pops. Detail also draws the eye in here. We don't want to bring the eye up here. We want it to be majorly on this part of the butterfly to be the brightest, and then the detail in the flower, and that's gonna keep your eye right, move your eye right there. All right. So why did I have to say all that? I've forgotten, but there was a good reason.
You wanted us to talk about focal points.
Yeah.
Because we don't know.
So, right here, okay, we have one that got just a little bit of that chewed up look here. I forgot, that was what was bothering you about it, was the chewed up look. Okay, so we're gonna try and soften this with the sponge, and let's see what happens. It may or may not work because some of this may be kind of staining.
Our water's right.
Oh yeah, very staining. Okay.
Can you move the water over a little bit?
Oh,
She
yes,
needs
yes.
water.
Okay,
What are you trying to take color out of, the background or the yellow?
the yellow, or wherever.
She
Okay.
got a little green or phthalo over on
Well,
it,
yeah, if you get
don't
phthalo on the yellow, it's definitely gonna go green.
So, let's do a little bit of this. Okay, then in a few minutes, I'm going to come back to it. We're going to see. We can improve it. We're not going to be able to lift this up. And rather than putting white down, I'm just going to show you how, when we change the values and paint on it some more, how it can change it to make it acceptable, maybe even good. All right. But not good in the way that you originally planned. Okay.
Exactly.
All
I
right.
just want it fixed.
So that has to dry. So while that's drying, let's talk about paint application again. And so I handed out some brushes to some of y'all.
You want me to grab it?
Yeah, I need one back.
She did.
Yeah, I do.
you? You using black velvet?
Little black velvet right here. Don't have enough out. This'll get us started. Okay. So I've got my orange paint here. And I am going to put some down in this area. There's something that I did not think to tell y'all last week, and I think it messed up Cheryl's piece. She's not here today. So. All right, so you can see that I'm softening that, and I want it to get lighter as it goes out. Okay, so that's our objective. One of the things that happens, and I actually need to have the water up here for this.
That's okay, because I
Okay.
think I should go do my tracing and come talk to me separately for the second part.
Okay,
I have
because
another
you don't
process.
actually need coaching on this.
No, I
Okay.
don't.
Is that when you're working with a round brush, the round brush can hold a lot of water in it. And so if I'm doing this and I'm dipping back in my paint, I'm thinning my paint down here. So you've always got to be careful about how much water is in your brush. a lot of the time, just a little one like this, you can pretty much just rake it off, and it'll probably have the right amount of water in it because it's a very small brush. As you're working with maybe a little bit larger brush, or one of those that's my favorite brush, like you have, it will hold a lot of water. It can flood the area. I think she was getting flooded, and I just didn't catch her in time. Okay, so another way to be sure that you don't have too much water in your brush before you pick this up is you can rake it over a wet sponge. Now this is a cellulose sponge. Don't rake it over some other kinds because that doesn't work. But what that'll do is that makes what I call a water neutral brush. It doesn't have enough water in it to let down, and it's not so dry that it's going to necessarily soak up. It might a little bit, but so I can, if I've got the right mixture in my paint already, then I can get some nice strong paint without thinning it out.
That's a good reminder to me.
It's a good reminder for all of us. And see, I needed to remind me last week. And I thought, well, I'll just work with her this week. And
It's a good habit, too.
she probably thinks watercolor is just not her thing. So, and here, that my paint is thick enough that I've got to pull into it a little bit to pull some of it out. And then I think I'm going to need some more clean water. So, I'm not raking it on the side just because I'm not showing you that. So, let's pull this up and let's see. So there I can wet it and get a soft edge. So you might want to try using this. I generally use a paper towel, but this is a little easier to get what I call a water neutral brush. It's a little more trustworthy until it's absorbed a lot of water, and then you have to squeeze it out. But that's the only thing there with that. But you're working with small amounts of, I have to actually get this wet because I didn't mix it with paint. When I should have been mixing paint, I was walking around, whatever. So, let's do this again. Let's take, here's one right here. Sometimes you might have to turn. Sometimes you might, I'm actually using this right now. Sometimes you might have to turn your work to get your hand in the right position. So I recommend turning this too, normally, just because sometimes you're actually looking at this. And if it's turned this way, then your brain has to look at this, and then it has to mentally turn this way. And you can get tired. You can get pretty tired of doing this if that happens. So let's put a little more color on here. And actually, if you change brushes from this to a synthetic or this to a different size of brush, you may have to adjust your technique. So it's really good for beginners to maybe get some brushes and use the same brushes all the time for a while, because later you learn to adjust when you change out brushes. But at first, it's a lot better if you have some consistency so that your brain can kind of become automatic on some of this without having to fight with everything. All right, so let's look now. Let's see if this is dry enough. Yeah, I believe this is dry enough. If it's not, well, it's your painting. That's what I tell people. Okay, so is that in the viewer? Okay. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. There, I want to make sure that part. So what we're going to do is, we can't take this out of here. And quite frankly, sometimes things like that, actually, that there is this texture in the background, and then it runs through here and on, that kind of has a really pretty effect with watercolor. Sometimes you can make use of that. So let's take this other.
And that color is?
This is, I've got Prussian blue here.
Okay.
And I did not get, I've got brushes out there right here. Duh. Here's one. It's not the one I wanted, but it's one. It works. It works. Okay.
Here and
Yeah, I don't have mine. my favorite brushes, but that's okay. That's okay. We're good. We're good. So I need this to be wetter. This is really strong paint. So when you know, you will get to know your pigments, and some of them you'll see, you can kind of tell pretty fast when you put them out that some of them are really strong. They're not only dark, but maybe they just sing to you louder, you know, when you look at them. Okay, so we're going to come along here and we're going to put some new background in. I hope that's dry enough. And now we're going to put it to here where we get a crisp edge. Let's see, this petal does, what does this petal do? I washed the line out. Where's the, yeah, so this one does, or it does that. I don't know, I don't recognize it. Okay, we'll just make it do something. We'll make it a big fat petal. Now, while that is wet, I got to get at it with quite a bit of water. Let's start the water out here, not up here close to our stuff. And let's see what it's going to do here. Because I want to kind of fade it out. So now the dominant edge of the petal is new, whereas before it was this made a dominant edge. So the petal no longer looks ragged. The petal has some interesting texture in it and color, which I think can be very attractive. So there are a lot of, in fact, I really like that. There are a lot of ways. Don't get discouraged, or when something's not going the way you want, don't freak out. Yell at me. Yell quietly, you know, nicely. But you know, let me know. Yeah. And let's see what we can do. But there are so many things that could actually turn out being a prettier watercolor because it has things like this in it. Okay.
Well, I would have done it the opposite and fixed the pedal instead of the
She's
background.
teaching us how to paint. She's telling us how to fix our mistakes.
Well, listen, knowing how to fix your mistakes is huge, and not only that, but when you fix your mistakes, sometimes you wind up with something even better.
That's a life lesson.
It is.
We
Write that down.
Yeah, we could have come in with
Write
some
down.
white and tried to paint that out, and
Yeah.
everything would be the typical way to look at it. But I think this is better.
Okay.
You know, that's not always a solution I would use, but in this particular case, I would. So on these, I would wash them back a little bit first. You may have to draw in or make up some of these petal edges a little bit. But I do think that sometimes when you lift, your painting will actually seem brighter than it did before you lifted. So sometimes it does something really pretty to the painting. So lifting is not always, not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's a really great thing. Let's just do a little of this down here. You want your surface to be pretty dry so that your background color doesn't start bleeding back in here, because you might even have to redraw that. But sometimes it's better to have something drawn than to, you know, sometimes when we've got paint and then we're starting to do something and all of a sudden we can't exactly find the edge, like here where I suggested drawing around these, it makes it so much easier this way because you're already having to think about how to make that brush do what you want it to do without also trying to find your place on here and trying to find what the shape is, and whoops, oh, I lost it over here. Which one is which? And yeah, I can't pull my hair out on the video, okay? Let's see.
I wouldn't do that to my swallow just come out.
So, okay, I think that's probably what y'all need to see for now.
Okay.
Because nearly everybody is still painting the original except you, and you could.
Mess with it.
Show me yours. I have yours. Mine. Okay. I think that this could be prettier if you lifted a little bit so that you got a little bit better highlights, and then you might have to dry it and come in and kind of just adjust some little places. Okay, and then it'll sing to you more. Sometimes if the paint is kind of heavy everywhere, suddenly it doesn't have that watercolor glow.
I want to go back with that green.
Yeah,
Whatever. And make it washed in marble like what she did on hers.
You can do that.
I thought maybe if I washed it out some,
I would
could do
give
that.
this a sponging over
Yeah.
a little bit to brighten it.
Yeah.
And then you may have to do little bits of orange touch up, and you might want to pull the background. A lot of this, if you want some of the green in there, see now people are wanting the green in there. So if you want the green in there, you've got enough in the background that you might be able to just do this. Now I'm pulling a little bit of yellow into the background as I'm doing that. See how much brighter this is getting? Some of that background color may come in here, but it's really not very much. Maybe it is a little bit.
Maybe 'cause
You,
it
you
was
probably,
washed and painted so many times.
yeah, you know, I think it's mostly that it's just soaked into the paper and that you may have to drop some in. I would drop it into pretty wet paper, though.
Okay.
Yeah, but I would do some gentle lifting. You don't have to
Okay.
lift real hard. You don't have to lift a lot. Did I turn that off yet?
No.
Okay, good.